So I'm here with my friend Joel, and we traveled all the way to California. I'm traveling with him because I want to grow in my relationship with God, and I wanted to spend some time with Joel. And one of the things that I was like, oh, I need Joel's opinion on this, I want Joel to speak into this, is my quiet time. And I thought maybe I would share with you guys this conversation. We actually haven't had this conversation yet. So this is the actual conversation.
Totally winging it.
But I want to improve my quiet time. I want to improve my time with the Lord. I've been going all in for Jesus for 20 years, and it feels slow sometimes. It feels like I could make more progress. And I want you to help me, I want to go item by item through my quiet time to figure out, am I approaching this correctly? Could it be better? I want to glean from your wisdom and your insight. And I'm going to ask Joel about his quiet time. So stick to the end of this video to hear more about that. But let's talk about my quiet time. I'm going to kind of give you literally what I do when I first wake up and talk through it. And then I'm asking you to be brutally honest with me.
All right.
If you can.
I'll give you all the wisdom I got. And if I don't know something, I'll totally make something up.
Yeah.
That'll be my goal.
And I feel like where I'm at right now in my quiet time is I've been successful on some level. I have a history in legalism. And I feel like for a while I kind of gave up on quiet time because I was like, Jesus loves me anyway and I'm not going to earn it.
I know that season now.
And then I was like, wait a minute, I need Jesus and I'm not going to get him by not showing up. And so I've been fighting to show up. And I feel like I've in some ways had some victory in getting up at 5:30 in the morning, which sounds crazy. I've got 5 kids. If I don't wake up early, it's not happening. I feel like I've succeeded on some level of getting up, but now I'm realizing it's hit or miss on what I'm doing and whether it's working. And so first thing I do when I wake up is I jump in the shower to wake up. That's my plan of attack to not stay in bed. And I listen to the audio Bible. And I kind of alternate between listening to chapters from different books. And then I've got a list of scriptures the Lord's highlighted to me that I listen to, that I put in a playlist. That's kind of right now actually the biggest way I'm engaging with the Word of God. Curious, I feel like I'm random in what chapter or book I select. And it feels like when I'm there, I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know where I should be, or there's been seasons where I've studied a book and felt like the Lord was meeting me there, but I don't feel like that's consistent.
Yeah, I think number one, just even having one at all is a huge difference. I think many people, it's they're just catching on the go, trying to remember throughout the day, which can be a challenge. So I think just even the fact that you're getting up early, prioritizing time, that's half the battle, just being there. But then I think from a Bible standpoint, specifically, I've done a lot of different things. I'm a very audible learner, so that's kind of my way. It frustrates people in arguments because I can remember what they said a half hour ago and repeat it back to them word for word, especially my wife. She doesn't like that. But because that's how I learn, for me, the audio Bible has been a great resource because as I'm hearing it, I'm really wrestling and digesting it and going through it, and I'll listen to a chapter 2 or 3 times. Lately, I've been in chapters. I'll kind of camp out in one. I think for me, I focus more and more not on just reading the Bible, but how do I get this thing in me to where this is when I'm squeezed, it's going to come out, right? I don't want to just know it. I don't want to just memorize it. I want to embody this thing. I want it to be where it's, the Spirit of God is taking this thing and it's going as deep down into my heart as I can humanly get, or supernaturally get. So for me, I think, again, just reading the Bible, period, makes a huge difference. But I think for me, asking the Lord, where am I called? What are you trying to do in me? And where in the Word is that truth? And then just digging into it. So I've done this in extreme fashion of 2016 to 2020. I was in John 17 for 4 years, just literally all day.
Just the chapter?
Just the chapter for 4 years, every day. And, not all day.
Did you finish it?
No, I barely understand what's going on.
But you've at least read it through all the way once.
I read it through all the way once. But I used to spend like a month just on one verse. And I'm telling you, this is like, it kills my very distractible self. This is not a natural state for me. I'd much rather just kind of like hop all around. So God's really been challenging me to just, like I said, dig in and go deep. And John 17 is such a rich chapter. And there's so much I get now that I didn't understand, but there's still even more. It's until you start getting into the layers of the word, where it's just like deeper and deeper perspective, it's like you realize, oh my gosh, I don't even know what's going on. And you can still have all the context, you can have the historical stuff, but when you really start reading it in the Spirit and he starts like dealing with you in your heart, and then you start changing. Now every day I'm reading the Bible, I'm different. It's not even the words different, I'm different, and so I'm encountering it in a different way. And I think these are just some things that I think I'm more interested lately in trying to go deeper than just going broad and, okay, I'm reading through the whole Bible. It's like, great, that's wonderful. How much of your character is shifted? Which categories are changed? Are your relationships more deep? So I think with the word, really asking God for a clear, like, number one, where do you want me to focus? But really, what are you trying to do in me? And then dig in until you get breakthrough.
So you said John 17, what is the Lord trying to do in you? Did he tell you before you got into John 17, or is he telling you as you're there? I'm sure.
It's more of a trickle. There was not this, like, I opened it and I had the whole deal. I mostly just went out of obedience and like, just, all right, I'm going to camp here until I figure something out. And I would say that the fruit of the time in John 17 is showing up now, not in 2016 and 2020.
So multiple years of reading one chapter to maybe get something years
to get something now. Like what I'm finding, and this is just a sneak peek of John 17, is what I'm finding now in my work with trying to bring like citywide unity is I am just utterly convinced unity is possible. And I don't even know where half the time, like, I don't know why I'm just so optimistic that people can be in unity. And I'm realizing, as my friend Jonathan says, that Jesus always gets what he prays for. And so if that's true, which I think it is, then unity is possible between us the way that the Father and the Son love one another, which is insane, but that we could actually be that unified and that love and that much self-sacrifice, all these things. So it's like I have this like unwavering optimism that honestly I think it was like putting Lego pieces together for 4 years, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, there's this thing there. And I think that's what I walked out of that season with.
And I think that addresses one of the frustrations I feel. Last year I did the whole Bible in 90 days. And like looking back on that, I was kind of like, there is some value to it, obviously. But I felt like I didn't really get depth in anything. And I think right now when I wake up, I'm turning on a different chapter every morning, or oftentimes just playing through like Paul's letters. And if you listen to the Bible, like you can listen to like 4 or 5 letters of Paul, like in the 20-minute shower. And I'm not as focused, actually. I'm still waking up. And so I feel like my brain is not fully grasping or fully present with what's happening. And then things do hit me. But I don't know, do you have any advice? Do you feel like changing my Bible time to later in my quiet time would?
Again, I think, I don't know that it's, I guess, yeah, you have to be alert. Like,
or picking one chapter and sticking with it?
Yeah, I think if you're finding it's not working, I think, it's getting in there. The Spirit of God is going to use it. So I think whatever it is, I think the key is asking the Lord. When I open my Bible, I'm like, Lord, where do I go today? I do that every day. And so he's free to change it any day he wants.
So he's telling you John 17 every day?
Every day. No, it wasn't like I wanted to. Like
you didn't realize you were doing this for 4 years when you did it the first time.
After a month, I'm like, all right, I got it. And I wake up, open my Bible, John 17, I'm like, seriously? He's like, you don't get it. And now, again, years on, I'm like, I really don't get it. I still have no idea what's going on. You have two eternal beings having a conversation with infinite amount of context to a friendship, and we're only hearing half the conversation. And he's talking about a glory they had before the world was that only him and the Father know. Anyway, there's a lot going on. So for me, I wake up every day and I open my Bible or turn on, get my Bible and I say, Lord, where am I supposed to be today? And he's had me lately, I'll spend a year in a chapter. And so that's usually every day, wake up and listen to it multiple times or read it multiple times. And I'm asking the whole time, like, God, what are you wanting to do in me? Like, I'll camp on one verse for like a month and just say, God, what's here? And I want you to get in me what's in this and what's the perspective. And sometimes it's like, it's rough, I'm just like, I don't know if there's anything here, but usually after a week or two, the Lord starts illuminating my heart and my mind, and I'm seeing things I would have never perceived had I just kind of doing a cursory, is that a right word? Gloss over, whatever. Anyway.
Is he telling you chapter and verse then? Like he's like John 17, and then you show up and he's like, let's do 5 today. Or is it more like we're doing?
No, I usually do the whole chapter. He'll say John 17, and I'll listen to the whole chapter, and something will highlight as going. It's like, oh wait, there's something there. I'll stop and I'll focus on that, and I'll pray, and I'm like, all right, God, what do you want to show me today? And then I'll listen, and he'll talk to me, and we just dialogue over that verse. And again, perspective will come.
You just said you listen, so like you're actually talking to the Lord and listening to the Lord about the chapter, like as you go through it.
Director's commentary. I mean, that's what you get. Like this is probably one of my greatest like way to advocate reading the Bible is reading the Bible in the Spirit, to where your dialogue, you're not reading about a dude who died on a cross. You're reading about the guy who died on the cross with the guy who died on the cross, right? Like he was there, right?
Yeah.
You're not reading about like this lion's den. You're reading with the dude who was in the lion's den with them, like holding the lions back. I don't know, but like it changes to me because I'm not academic. Like I have a 1.45 GPA. This is not like, and Christianity is not a faith of academia. Like you can be a brilliant studier of the Bible and the whole thing front and back and still go to hell. Like this is not the nature of our faith. Our faith is one of knowing, like husband and wife know each other. This is all, it's like you got to know God and have deep relationship with him. So the worst thing you can do is be an expert on the Bible and not have an intimate relationship with Jesus. But there's lots of people that have done that. So I think for me, reading the Bible outside of like the dialogue with Jesus and encountering him with it and listening to him as the dude who was there doing it, that to me, like I'm pretty dumb. I just would never engage the Bible this way. You need
someone to hold your hand.
Yeah. I would never just do it from some type of like, I want to become smarter. I do it because it's a way for me to know him, and know him for sure is the word, because it's totally trustworthy. But to do it with him, it changes the way that I read the Bible and makes me more excited about it.
That's awesome. So I'm taking from that, you're asking the Lord every day, what chapter should I be in? So like if I was going to change what I'm doing, it would be like maybe still listening to the audio Bible when I get in the shower, but instead saying like, Holy Spirit, which chapter do I listen to, or which book? And then maybe putting it on repeat. And then as I'm in the shower saying, God, what do you want to say in this chapter? What do you want to say in this chapter? What do you want to say in this verse? What are you saying to me? And then the other thing I'm hearing is that, like, I think I have a tendency to read the Bible with my mind. And I think you're trying to let the Bible like address your heart and who you are as a person. So the attitude is not, how do I understand this? But how do I like live this? Or how do I be changed by this?
Yeah.
Or think like the way that God thinks in this.
Yeah.
That's good. So after I get out of the shower, I get dressed and I go downstairs.
That's good. Important step.
Dry off.
Yeah.
I kind of alternate because I don't have a clear plan here. I usually go down and like plop myself in a chair or plop myself on my couch. Lately, I've felt like conviction from the Lord to like end up on my knees or like walk back and forth. And at this point, I'm like worshiping the Lord is the category. And to be honest, like I don't do that more than half the time. Like a lot of times I'm just sort of sitting there and like there's worship music on. And sometimes it's really bad and I end up like on Facebook on my phone. Other times it's like I'm actually walking back and forth, pacing in the room, like turning my heart towards God, speaking things out loud about like how he's worthy. I wish that second half is what I was doing more. Like what I'm trying to figure out how to get myself to that place and not end up sitting on my couch sort of like in a daze.
Yeah, Yeah, I think for me, one of the habits that I formed a while ago was the first thing that I do when I open my eyes is I actually say to Jesus, he's worthy. That's like kind of, maybe that's helped get me out of bed. It's like, you're worthy of the pain that I'm experiencing right now to get out of my bed and go do what I got to do. But I've learned there's something about like the very first thing I do is worship and praise. Like, I just think it sets the tone of my morning. So like, it's literal. Like, I open my eyes, I'm like, Lord, you're worthy. And I just find it sets it for me. And so whether I use music, I don't always use music in my quiet times. I think it's good. It's worship isn't music. Music is just it's a tool that can be used to help us choose worship. But I think for me, just like right out the gate, I think engaging with the Lord in that way of just worshiping Him, it sets the tone for my Bible reading, right? Like, it reminds me I'm not here to like get some information. I'm here to commune with Him, and then my whole morning is communing. And we could talk about a number of the things that could be helpful to help cultivate an overall quiet time. But I think maybe even considering, like, when you first get up on your way to the shower, you're already like adoring Him. You're already worshiping Him. You're already setting that tone. Whether that becomes like a habit or whatever, but it's just, like I said, the idea of just affirming Him, loving on Him, being kind to Him, starting out like first thing, like I said, for me, it kind of sets the rest of my quiet time is in that, and then I close my quiet time with more of that.
So for you, the order is like start with worship and end with worship, and then worship through the whole thing. Worship word is first for me before I shower, and I did this thing a while ago. Not everybody has to do it, but I don't shower often before I do stuff with Jesus, because if I'm like running late or running out of time, I'd rather not shower than miss that. You know what I mean? Like, I would be like, so even though I try not to miss showers, but but I'm like, I want to make sure I connect with Jesus. So I do, like I said, it's really like just kind of on my way to go open the Bible and listen to it. But I start with that, and then I have a couple other things that we can get to, but I do, again, just kind of setting my heart to worship, connecting with Him, affirming Him, worshiping Him, bring that to the Word. God, what chapter am I supposed to be in, or where am I supposed to be? Sit down and dig in. This is about my quiet time, not about your quiet time. Your video's coming next.
I'm enjoying it, though. I do enjoy my time with Jesus.
So that's good. As I'm hearing you talk, what I'm taking away is like that the idea that worship is kind of like a section of my quiet time might be the wrong approach, that I maybe need to more start with worship and a posture of worship, because it's not something that I'm engaging the Word sort of disconnected from Him. I'm like engaging the Word with Him. And then the next step, and sometimes this blurs with worship, is like I pull out usually my phone. I used to use a notepad, but it was too much work transcribing everything. And I just like start listening to the Lord. And a lot of times I'll like ask Him, like, what do you want to talk about? Or sometimes I'm like, I have something heavy on my heart, and I'd start talking to Him about that. And so yeah, that's kind of the next thing that I do. And that probably ends up taking up a pretty big bulk of my quiet time. I think that's the most comfortable place for me, is in this conversation with Him. And I'm pretty I write out my question and then write out His response, and then write out my question, write out His response. And it could be like a back and forth of like 10, 20. Mm-hmm. Any insight on that?
Yeah, that's really, I think, again, most people, I imagine, would not be doing the dialogue writing thing, which is like amazing. And I think that's a really important one to do, is just having time where you're talking to Him and even writing that question, or write what you want to talk about, and then writing down what He's saying to you, and having that discipline. And just, first of all, is like, that's very, I don't know a lot of people that do that. Many times they struggle just, number one, even showing up.
Yeah.
So to even have that is good. again, it's just more of thoughts. Some of this stuff is going to be like people's learning styles and different unique ways. Like for me, I'm all digital. Like this is my tool of choice.
Bible.
This is like, I worship God with this. I want Jesus Lord of my devices. So, this is, I'm very technical and very digital. It helps me engage with him and the Word. So I don't see this as like some other world that he's not part of. This is like his throne is here too. But I think for me, one of the first things I do after reading the Bible is I actually begin to pray for others. So I find as well, like so much of my quiet time can be about me. And actually, I have a prayer list. So highly, highly recommend. Could totally change your life if you don't already have one. Have a list of people that you're responsible for. And this is another John 17 thing. Is like he said, I didn't lose any of the ones that you gave me. And I just think for each one of us, who has God given you? Who are the friends, family? Whoever, who has God assigned you to, and maybe most people probably don't even know because they haven't asked if they hang out with people they like. That's so lame. That's so not the way to do it. So you're not supposed to hang out with who you like. You're supposed to hang out with the people who God has assigned you to love, who are difficult, who you don't want to hang out with, you don't want to spend time with, that you're going to love them anyways. It's like, what good is it to love people who love you? But I call you to love those who hate you, right? Your enemies. So I think you're having a list of people you're assigned to. So I go from again, bit of worship, positioning my heart, Bible, prayer list. And so I immediately begin to name by name the people that I'm responsible for. And I name them before the Lord. And I literally just pray over them what I have already asked Jesus, what he wants to do in their life. So whatever the assignment is, whatever the things that God's wanting to do in their life, I'm praying that over them. And I usually find about every 3 to 6 months I have to change it because it's happened. So I actually track with it over time.
Oh, wow.
So I'm contending for whatever it is that the Lord's shown me that he wants to do. I'll just pray over them that. So I go to that, and then it's usually after I cover that, then I go to, God, what do you want to say to me today? And so that's, again, it's just my model. It doesn't have to be the same as everybody else.
Sure.
But I just find that. Another fun question to throw in your toolkit is, God, what's on your heart today? And again, so often we're coming to him with our stuff, coming to him, again, with worship, with the Word, with other people, then with the stuff we want, but then also saying, God, what is on your heart? And he's talked to me about some of the most ridiculous things that I would have never even thought about. And I'm like, oh, wow, how can I minister to you? And I start praying for whatever that is that was on his heart that's totally, many times, unrelated to me.
Yeah.
Or what I'm doing. It's just...
It's kind of like, do we want to bring God into our world or do we want to go into his world?
Yeah. It's good.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the only reason you're hanging out with me is because God assigned you to me, not because you like me.
That's true, but I do like you too. It's nice when you
like the people God's assigned
like the people God's assigned to. But yes, no, it's true. It's the Lord. It's a very strange, hedonistic way to live is to say, God, who do you want in my life, and letting him say yes and no. It's also a great way to set boundaries for people that shouldn't be in your life that want to be, but that God hasn't assigned them.
Reacting to God, not people. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about prayer lists. That's one of the things that I have on my rarely it happens. Mm-hmm. And I say that I had a month earlier this year, pastor of my church put together a prayer guide, and I was using that guide for a month and actually saw some fruit from that month. But I struggle with that. So that's really good. The other thing that I'm struggling to get in my quiet time is this declaring truth kind of thing. And I know your audience maybe knows, and I've told my audience a little bit about this, the freedom for the willing is where that truth list comes from. And it's basically the tools, the truths that you're using to battle the lies of the enemy that have developed strongholds in you. I'm aware of that aspect of it, but I'm struggling to get that in my quiet time. Is that something that you how do you make that happen?
Yeah, I don't use mine every time. I actually use mine almost more prescriptive, where my truth list is really long. I got a lot of garbage, a lot of junk. But what I found is by doing the daily declarations, in the season where I'm trying to get victory. And so the freedom for the willing is when you're getting stuck and you're wanting to change and you're struggling to change. Freedom for the willing helps you kind of work through a process to where you identify why that is and where that came from and where you learned the lie. And then where it kind of ends to a degree is that you have a list of truths that are specific from the Holy Spirit that if you believe that, you won't keep doing the other thing, right? So it's not just trying to like strive to change. It's about knowing truth, and the truth will make you free. And so what I do is normally there's a real intensity when there's a particular area I'm trying to get free on. So I always say at least 30 days every day, declaring out loud, not in your head, verbally, you're reading the list and you're declaring it over who you are and over your, trying to get it in your head and ultimately your heart. And so that is like super intense for a season. And then when I actually have changed and I'm not doing it anymore, I don't read the list every day. And so what'll often is I have a whole list of sins in my truth list. And what I do is when I'm starting to struggle again, which happens, I'll be like, feeling insecurity or feeling, struggling with something that is like, oh, that's on my list. I go to it. I now have a list and I'll begin to declare that. And then I find it kind of get back in. So it's like keeping free. Now I have weapons to fight with. And so that's how I do mine. I don't do it every morning now, but I did for quite a bit of time when God was really trying to help me get a victory in some areas.
Where do you recommend I do that? Like, do I do that before I read the word, after I pray for people? Like, where?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I don't think it matters. I think for you, even with this quiet time thing, it's like I'm really cautious against formulas and like this is the one size fits all. I think just having the elements. I think, like I said, take into account your learning styles, taking into account maybe certain attention deficits. I have things that I do to compensate for all my chaos, and so I think just developing a system that helps you do it and stay consistent, you could be very creative, and there's a lot of different ways to do it.
And final question on my quiet time, I'm like waking up at 5:30, usually by 6 o'clock, I'm down on my couch or in my living room, and then like it typically wraps up like 6:50, 7 o'clock. Do you feel like, I think sometimes I'm like trying to make it longer because I feel like that's better.
Yeah, it's longer than my quiet time, to be honest. Straight up, I'm confessing that maybe a lack of prayer in my life or something.
Or maybe it's...
but mine's not that long.
Maybe I'm just wasting my time and it's diluted because I'm trying to make it longer.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. But I don't think that I think, again, I'm looking for quality. I think time matters. I think you gotta dig in. You gotta have some time. But to be honest, like my time is probably half hour, 45 minutes probably in total. It's not like hours and hours and hours. One day I'll maybe be holy enough to have a 2-hour quiet time, but right now that's kind of the rhythm that works for me. And I've actually asked the Lord this because there was a season where, especially when I had young kids like you do, my quiet time was a disaster. Like I was hardly like, and I kept beating myself up because during my earlier years and my single years, like it was this, I had hours, I had all these time. And I used to really beat myself up a lot. And one day I prayed about it and I was like, Lord, what's your perspective of this? And I just felt the Holy Spirit say, I don't condemn you. Like, I'm not sitting here beating you over the head with this quiet time. Like, I'm grateful that you're making effort. I'm grateful that you're drawing near to me. And then he gave me a model that was a little more like touch points throughout the day, which I did for a season. And that worked for me, but it just lifted the condemnation, which wasn't helping me either.
Yeah.
And it got me out of this like legalism of just trying to, or even looking at other people's quiet time and measuring my spirituality by that. And so knowing what God has assigned for you and the grace He's assigned for you for that season and embracing that grace, but not giving up the leaning in, the clinging to Jesus, the intimacy He invites us into. Thank you.
I think I've got quite a few thoughts here. Maybe take them to the Lord and ask Him what His perspective is on them.
Great plan.
And we're going to switch now to his channel. So if you're just getting to know Joel, he's pretty awesome. We're going to actually continue this conversation, but on his channel, we're going to go deeper into the conversation around quiet time, hearing God. And so click this video. We're going to talk about what apps Joel uses for his quiet time in that video.
Love my technology.
So we'll see you in that video.